I was like, but wait, God, like, yes, even though I'm getting excited about this job, I promise I didn't forget about our purpose, and I promise I didn't forget about our ministry. It's there, I promise.
Yeah.
But like, let me breathe for a second, and then I'll get back to you. You know, I've gone through it. I haven't had any money. I just went through this big traumatic thing. So thank you for taking care of me, because we're about to be up 6 figures. And I promise you though, like, let me breathe for a second and let me things settle down, and then we gonna get right back into the ministry. I'll get right back to posting online.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited about that job and how everything was gonna change. And I didn't get it.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't get it. And the interviews were so good, and I went to the final round, to the point where even in the final round, they were like, we got to get you on LinkedIn. Like, let's connect. You know, let's make sure we have each other on LinkedIn and stuff. And I was like, I'm about to be here.
I'm out of here.
And I did not get it.
Wow.
And I was like, I go, here we go. I go, there's no way.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way. You're not doing this to me you're not doing this to me. Not a third time. Are you happy? Like, it was that kind of mindset. And I didn't feel like, because we weren't in this real active relationship, I really wasn't getting convicted for a lot. Like, my abstinence, when I broke it, there was like really I knew that. I was like, well, dang, there goes that. You know, when I discipline him, and when I get on him, and when I tell him things, and when I get frustrated with him, it's because I love him so much, and I want him to see this bigger picture. I want to tell him, like, when I want to tell him, hey, like, you need to trust me. I'm not hurting you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this to make your life harder. I'm trying to help you because I know something you don't, or because I know better. So in the same way I discipline my son, the same way any parent, good, loving parent, would discipline their child, is the same way I get disciplined by our Heavenly Father.
All right, welcome to the Male to Man podcast. We are on the road today, and we have a very, very special guest today. Man, we was talking off camera just about life and new things and listening and obeying God. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Vanity Rodriguez to the podcast. How you doing, Vanity?
Hi, I'm Vanity. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, we were talking earlier about obedience and saying yes. So I'm happy to say yes to this, and I'm super excited for our conversation.
You say a lot of things that are intriguing, and I relate to. You were talking about your time and saying your yes. Well, a lot of like my folks that's watching will know that I said yes recently to this podcast, and you were talking about how you just started actually saying yes to things again. So can you tell us a little bit about that and just how because I just thought that was interesting how it came about.
Yeah. So, as I was explaining earlier, this is my first time saying yes to even being on a podcast and speaking with somebody in going on almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And the past, I would say, year and a half, I have just been, one, in survival mode, but two, very paralyzed and just in a lot of fear. I haven't done a lot of what I know God has been telling me to do. So I have not been walking in obedience at all.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to maybe open up about that a little bit later. But ultimately, I haven't really made any courageous decision or any big faithful decision. I've just been kind of to myself and very isolated, and which, as you know, anyone who gets into spaces like that in life, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
It just makes you even more paralyzed and even more scared. You get more sad. You feel even more disconnected from what God wants you to do. Anybody who's not walking in their purpose, even if it's something as small as not even doing something you enjoy. So even just me being a creative and wanting to help people and wanting to be online and wanting to do the things I naturally enjoy doing, I haven't even been doing any of that. So it's just been a total neglect. I haven't done anything that serves my mind, my spirit, my creativity. And so it's left me really, really stagnant. It gets to a point, though, where something has to give. And it gets to a point where you start to really feel that weight of your life. And God really does push you to a point where you just have to surrender. You have no other choice.
Yeah,
So
he does.
that is ultimately where this yes is coming from. I ultimately just got to a point of full 100% surrender.
Yeah,
And I am just doing my best to be obedient and put my faith over my feelings. And as we know, and as I've had in personal experience in the past, that truly is what it takes to start letting God be God in your life
yeah,
again. And so it feels really
yeah,
good. It feels really good to make courageous, bold, faithful decisions again. And it feels really good to be in this safety of knowing that all I can do is commit my works to him and he will direct my path, that he will, put everything in place according to his will. And so there's no resistance anymore, which is great. There's no resistance. There's no fear. There's no overthinking. There's
yeah,
no feeling of being stuck.
yeah.
It's just showing up the best I can and knowing that he's going to make a way for the rest.
I'm excited to see what's to come. I relate to that a lot because for a long time, my folks watching though, but I was putting off doing a podcast, working a job, and making decent money, but feeling very stuck every day. Feeling very stuck, feeling very just like God, this cannot be my purpose in life. Just to come here, feel out of energy, out of touch with you, with what I'm doing with my calling, my ministry, and just make money and die. So, I had my plan of how I was gonna start the podcast and it was gonna be smooth. The Lord had another plan. But just remind me of Psalms 32, do not be like the horse and the mule. All right, but I will guide you with my eyes. So the Lord, when He's ready to push us out there, He will.
Yeah,
Uncomfortable as that
100%.
might be for us. So while we're talking, I did want to ask you, how did your walk with God start? How did your relationship with Him start?
I say this often. It's very, very true. But I always say that I was a fan of God, but I was not a follower of Christ.
Mhm.
So I gave my life to Christ. No, October of 2023. So not too long ago at all. It's going
Yeah,
on 3 years this year. So 2023 was the year that I picked up the gospel and that I read about the good news and accepted Jesus as, my Lord and Savior. Before that, though, and I'm 31 now. And so I think that was 29 going into 30.
yeah,
And so it's a long time. That's a
mm,
long time without Jesus. And that's a long time without the Bible. That's a long time without any kind of actual spiritual foundation. Prior to that, like I said, I was a fan of God. So I was very new age. I was very spiritual. I knew there was a higher power.
yeah,
I knew there was something bigger than me, but I had no idea what that meant. Even being raised, I wasn't raised in church. I wasn't raised to believe anything. The Bible was never read to me or introduced to me. So I
yeah,
think that's why it was very easy for me just to kind of become more of a spiritual person,
mhm,
going into school, uh, college, and things like that. I never found a Bible study group, or there was not like a person who saved me, or there wasn't somebody who influenced me. There wasn't this kind of big testimony where I was really struggling in life and then I just felt like God speak to me. There wasn't anything like that. It was truly I always knew there was a higher power. I knew there was something bigger than me. My idea of prayer was just, being in college and being drunk and just praying I made it home okay.
yeah,
And it was
yeah.
me,
We all been there.
having unprotected sex and just praying I didn't get
Yeah,
pregnant. There was no real relationship. It was just
yeah,
me throwing, oh my God, like, please, I promise. There was a lot of, I promise if you do this, if you just let me pass this, I'll do this. And the no real intimate relationship. Going into 2023, ultimately, what kind of made me desire to have a better relationship and to get to know him better and to really have a firm foundation in life. I think my life had just become, I felt so out of my control.
mm,
And and anybody who follows me or, knows my story, lust was my biggest battle. And that had consumed my life in such an ugly way that it got to a point where I was like, something has to change. Like I was so male centered and I had seen how lust destroyed my life in so many different ways over and over and over again that I just wanted to step away completely. And I just knew some really deep healing needed to happen.
Yeah.
And so there was a really unhealthy, lustful situation that I had found myself in right before that just really shook me. And I was like, going January of 2023, I was like, I need to do something different in my life. I need to figure out who this God is and I need to be saved
Yeah.
somehow and I don't know how. And that's kind of ultimately where it started.
Yeah.
And then I got a Bible and I started reading it. I had no idea what I was reading or it didn't really make sense, but I was like, this is a start. And then I had just moved to the DFW area and somebody had recommended a church. A friend of mine who I knew at the time, she wanted to go to a specific church and asked if I wanted to
Mm.
go that weekend. And I said yes. Then I did a Daniel fast. As we know in church, they
Mm.
typically will
Yep.
do the Daniel fast. I had nothing. I knew nothing about fasting and praying, but I was like, I'll try that. And that was the first time that 21 days of prayer, that was the first time I'd ever actually prayed and talked to God consecutively
Yeah.
for 21 days straight, the first time in my entire life. And I'm almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
So every day I just talked to him. And I was like, I don't really know what to say. I just know I'm single and I'm sad and I'm broke and I'm tired and I'm anxious and I'm depressed and I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I hear good things about you. And, I hear that you're amazing and you help people. So here I am talking to you. And I did that for 21 days. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, that's kind of ultimately where it started. And then I was really on fire over that summer. And then by October, it
Yeah.
had just gotten to a point where I was just full on a believer
Yeah.
and got baptized. And it's been a true walk with him ever since. So these past 3 years have been a lot. Been a lot.
So, what made you? My next question was going to be, what made you choose Jesus? Like you said, you're already spiritual. Why didn't you just? I mean, a lot of people go deeper into spirituality or witchcraft or something they can control a little bit more. What made you say, all right, uh, God and Jesus, that's the way I want to go. The Bible is the way I want to go.
Because I tried everything else
Yeah.
and it didn't work.
Yeah.
There is something so supernatural that happened in
Yeah.
that experience. Prior to that, like I said, being very new age, I tried really all the things, to try to find peace in life. The tarot cards and sage, that's how I used to bless my house. I'd sage it up and say, just, any negative vibe, that everything was vibes.
Yeah.
And I just wanted all the negative
Yeah.
vibes to be out. It was crystals. It was zodiacs. Truly. It was like, hey, like, what's my zodiac say for this week? I was so serious about what it said about me and what was going on in life. Like I had used it to determine my life and where it was going. Um, and there was even one point where I was just like really into psychics and I was like, okay, like tell me about myself, like what's going to happen. And everything just always came. Nothing ever fixed anything. Like I said, even when I would try I think the very first time I had tried going to church was with me and my son's dad. We're no longer together. We had broke up back in December of 2020. But prior to that, I had went to church for the first time regularly as a way to just try to fix
Yeah.
us. So I guess you can actually say maybe that's where it ultimately started. Now that I think about it, I was so desperate. Again, I think I found myself in life at different points so desperate for help and
Yeah.
so desperate to feel a void. And at that time, I remember had no idea how else to fix our relationship. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, maybe we need God. We need something. Maybe we go to church and
Yeah.
they help us. Maybe we find a pastor or something. I hear they help
Yeah.
people. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so it did not work out. It didn't last. I would be in church and I just felt so disconnected because I just didn't know what they were talking about. Because again, I had never picked up the Bible. The Bible was so intimidating to me.
Yeah.
And I just never, things were not clicking and I didn't feel I felt so spiritually dead now looking back at it. And that's why I think this time was so different, because there was something that happened supernaturally that just had not happened before.
Mhm.
And this time around, when I had picked up the Bible and when I had gotten also different Bibles. Like I had gotten my first Life Application Bible, which is a study Bible. And the way it was breaking down scripture, I was like, wait, this makes sense. And
Yeah.
I think, and I say this often too, there's pros and cons, of course, to how long you've had Jesus in your life. Like I tell anyone who's younger or anyone who is in that walk, who's in college right now and they're trying to, be pure and all that stuff, I give them so much kudos,
Yeah.
because how difficult is it to
Yeah.
live to that standard at such a young age?
Yep.
I think and when you find Jesus so late in life, I think that's why it was so easy for me to just surrender to him, because I had lived so much life without him.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the con to that is I already experienced so
Yeah.
much heartbreak and grief. I already
Yep.
experienced so many things that did not work out. I already experienced so many dead ends. I already experienced so much suffering. I already experienced so many consequences that I got to the point where it's like, I don't care, something,
Yeah.
whatever. So, that desperation made it really easy versus being somebody who maybe, did grow up in a church and did get church hurt or did get
Yeah.
traumatized or, was introduced to it, but then got
Mhm.
pushed away from it and then tried to find their way back. That just wasn't my story. My story
Yeah.
was I lived this ghetto life outside of him and it got so bad. And I wanted to, like, I wanted to love him and
Yeah.
I wanted him for myself and I wanted to get to know him. And I think that's what made our relationship ignite so quickly
Yeah.
versus it just kind of being this on and off. So when
You
I
were
was
ready.
locked in, I was
Yeah.
I was locked in. So again, nothing had worked for me. And when I started reading the Bible, when I really started understanding what I was reading, when I read the Gospels, that
Mhm.
is truly when I read on John is the book that completely
Yeah.
did it for me.
Look at God. That's my favorite. That's
Yeah.
when I started. What helped change my perspective on God was John 11 when I seen Jesus crying for Lazarus, and it changed how I viewed him. I used to always view him as just kind of like this dictator looking down on us, as like just he didn't have personality. So when I was able to see him as just being real and being father and being loving, it was like, oh, so the book of John did it for me too.
Yeah,
Did it
that's
for
the
me
book.
too.
That is my favorite gospel. It personified God and it changed my entire life. Like as simple as it sounds, I saw it as there was this this incredible God, right,
Mhm.
who we know identifies as the only being that truly identifies as love, created us on purpose.
Yeah.
And again, as we know, his thoughts and his ways are higher than ours. So I will say, I'm a very curious person, but I never really questioned what I was reading. I wasn't like, well, this doesn't make sense. So if humans weren't, I didn't dissect it to the point where I was trying to find the faults in it. And I also think
Yeah.
that was what was very helpful. When I personally read the Gospels, like I said, I was interested and intrigued to get to know him. So I wasn't coming from this point of view of like, let me see if you're real or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to try this. I want to try that. I wasn't like testing
Yeah.
Christianity. I wanted to dive into
Yeah.
it. So maybe that's why my perspective may be a little bit different. And as a mom, it hit a lot harder.
Yeah.
I was like, at the end of the day, this God, right, decided to create humans.
Yeah.
And there was a separation between us and him. And how sad is that? And
Yeah.
he wanted relationship with us so badly, to the point where he sent Jesus down just to be able to have a relationship with us. And the fact that he wanted us to have a relationship so bad, he's like, I just want to talk to the people I created.
Yeah.
That simple. And then, coming down and just Jesus truly dying for us to have relationship with us so that moving forward, we can have access to his spirit is such a privilege. And I think that was my biggest takeaway. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, how privileged am I to have access to God? Because, like I said, growing up, I knew there was a higher power.
Yeah.
I knew there was something bigger than me, but I just didn't know there was no relationship. So I think it all just kind of came together for me. I was like, wait, the fact that I could have relationship, an intimate relationship, a real relationship,
Mhm.
and how crazy it is that I have not taken advantage of that. And I
Yeah.
see it, I think that was the first time I also saw God as a father in the same way that I just immediately imagined me and my son. My son's name is Andre. And I was like, that would be like me giving birth to him.
Yeah.
And then immediately the doctors took him away. And it was just
Yeah.
me fighting my whole life to have a relationship with him.
Mhm.
And so the way it hit me at the time a few years back, it was very loving and it brought me to tears. And it was just this better understanding of who I am and what happened before us, like even what happened before mankind. And it was an amazing experience. And then at that point, I was like, I really like this just makes sense. There's nothing else that makes sense outside of this. And in that
Yeah.
time, even before getting baptized, the more I was reading my Bible and the more I was praying and having these conversations, things were supernaturally just happening in my life. And I just could not explain it. And I'm like, yeah, you just cannot tell me something's not shifting. You can't tell me something's not moving. And I spent so much of this time very isolated. So I
Mhm.
think that's also what made it easier is I purposely like going in January of 2023, I purposely said like, I don't want to, nothing else was a priority but getting to know God.
Yeah.
So when I say I locked in so heavily, I really wanted to make a change and I really wanted a firm foundation. And so there was so much, there was so much openness on my end. And I think that's why there was so much room for him to move. So the things that were changing in my life, I was like, wait, or I would pray for something, I would have a conversation and then something would change or something would come to pass. And I was like, wait, are you really hearing me right now?
Yeah.
Like I always say, us as humans, we have a finite mind
Yeah.
trying to have a relationship with this infinite God. And so, yeah, it's a very weird experience at first because you really are talking to yourself. You're just kind of like these thoughts, like no one else hears that but you. The
Yeah.
conversations you have with him, nobody else hears that.
Yeah.
So when things are again happening in your life that align with that, it leaves you no choice but to be more curious and to just be more like, wait, like,
Yeah.
did you hear me? Are you talking
Yeah.
back to me? And I think 2023 was just such a beautiful year for me because up until October, that was just truly 10 months of me like in my word and
Yeah.
exploring this and getting to know him and embracing him and just really just reading about who he is and honoring, my life prior and yeah, it's what finally started working. It's what finally started
Yeah.
working for me and things started changing. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like I got to stay here.
Amen. Amen. I love to hear people's stories when they first come into the faith and just how God does it and calls us because it just shows us, how much He loves us and he's such an intentional God. He's such an intentional God. Um, He calls us all the other time. So speaking of that, I mean, you almost started a sermon right there. How did you get into ministry? Like what led you into ministry?
I I went to school for psychology.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a forensic
Yeah.
psychologist and I've always had this deep yearn to help people
Yeah.
and especially very broken people, which is why I wanted to go into the more forensic side
Yeah.
of things. Criminal minds have always fascinated me.
Yeah.
Broken people have always fascinated me. I do think I'm just one of those ones that have a savior complex and a very healing type of personality. I love saving. And I think it just stems from all of the ways that I didn't have what I needed growing up, and I
Yeah.
think it just made me wanna be that person for others because I knew what it was like to suffer from XYZ, and, like, I just did not want anyone else going through that, so I think that's kind of where that savior complex comes in. So I've always wanted to help people, I just didn't know exactly how, and so I went to school for psychology again, wanted to be a forensic psychologist, and ended up getting pregnant in college. I got pregnant my senior year, so my
Yeah.
life completely shifted. And ever since then, and that was 2016, ever since then, that has been the thing I always come back to
Yeah.
of like, I need to do something where I'm like making an impact on somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I need to do something where I am like dissecting somebody and helping them be better. Um, and of course, like jobs and things that I had in between, they weren't, especially not knowing Christ at all. There was no, like, there was always that feeling there, but without really being a believer and having him in my life, I had no direction on how to really
Yeah.
do that. It was just one of those things that I enjoyed doing in life. And of course, priorities change when you are a new mom. You're just trying to find any job you can and make ends meet. There really was no purpose driven life.
Yeah.
When you fast forward 2023, same year, gave my life to Christ in October. That December, I remember I was praying and fasting just over my career. The job that I had, I was not a fan of it, but I also knew that I was so appreciative
Yeah.
that I finally, that it was my provision.
Yeah.
October that year, what was also so beautiful about that year, and this is also what I mean earlier, but I just knew he was moving supernaturally. My whole life shifted for the better. I was, I wasn't male centered. I feel like I could already feel this breaking off of the lustful heart that I had. Finances completely turned around.
Yeah.
And I had finally felt like for the first time since being a single mom, like I got it right. And I was
Yeah.
so happy. Finances were good. I had paid off debt. I remember that was like a little segment I did on TikTok. It was called The Season of Sacrifice, where I spent all that summer I worked so hard doing different things. Like I was so on fire for my life and it
Yeah.
felt really, really good.
Yeah.
I was like, I found God. Again, I'm not male centered. I feel like my lustful heart is transforming. I was not in survival mode. I paid off debt. Credit score was up. I had just moved into a huge 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was literally like, wow. And I think that's why he felt, it's funny looking at the journey now. And again, every new Christian, when you give your life to Christ, when when as soon as you do that,
Yeah.
that's when everything changes. So
Yeah.
prior to that, that whole year, I was so on fire. And I think now looking back, I feel like that's God's mercy 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like he makes it easy at first to fall in love with him 100%. So I was on a high that year. And December came and I was so grateful. I was like, you know what, God, like we're doing it. We got everything. My life's coming together. I was like, there's only one thing missing now and it's my career. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be 30. I just turned 30, or I think I was 29 that year. I was like, I'm going to be 30 next year. And I finally have a good grip in life and I'm adjusting to single motherhood. We're good financially. Like I really feel like now is the time that I can prioritize my purpose. And now is the time that now that I know you, now we can actually work together to figure out what you want me to do in life.
Yeah.
And I still have this yearning to help people and to help heal people. And that was the same year as I was sharing my journey online. That was also something where I was like, I really love teaching the Bible. Like, I really love explaining what I'm getting from this. And ultimately, when I was praying and fasting in December, that's what it was for. I was like, never asked to not have my job. That never came out of my mouth. I was actually so grateful for it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm here. I'm stewarding this job well. I'm happy to be here, but can you just help me? Like, what do I do next? I really I want to show up more online. I wanted, how do I be of service to you? And like, that was really it.
Yeah.
And they let me go. They let me go from that job 2 weeks later. And it was a company-wide layoff. So I prayed and fasted December 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
Yeah.
December 15th, I got let go. I was, and it was just me. So what's crazy is that job, it was a startup company, but we had been experiencing layoffs all year and it never affected me personally. And it got to the point where our team was so small. They were like, just so you know, like we can't we literally can't lose anybody else. It went from a team of 30 people to like 4 of us, to the point where we're now working
Yeah.
other people, like other departments were picking up so much work. And that's also kind of where this frustration was coming from. Cause I was like, God, listen, again, I'm grateful for this job, but
Yeah.
this is not it.
Yeah.
My stress was so high, and I had work anxiety for the first time, and it don't feel right. You
Yeah.
feel that tension. And they just had let me go. And it was so unexpected. And like I said, I had like, this is coming toward the end of the year, and I was so happy about that year, and I worked so hard. And like I said, I just gave my life away. When any man who spun the block, I was like, no, like I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
ended that year like I was just so on this high, and losing my job dropped me
Mm.
right back down. And that was such a scary situation to be in. When I had got let go, I was terrified. I was
Yeah.
terrified. That is a single mom's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had just gotten to a space financially where I just got it right. I
Yeah.
had just paid off that debt. I was not behind, and I just upgraded. So my expenses just went up.
Yeah.
And so losing that income
Hurt.
hurt. Oh, I was paralyzed. And
Yeah.
I had just moved in there. I had moved in August. So I was like right in the middle of my lease. And the last 2 weeks of that month, will never forget. A part of me kind of had some peace, because I was all like, there's no way I had known I had just prayed and fasted over this in my
Yeah.
career. But a part of me was like, but I know you, and I've known you this whole year, and you're so loving and perfect. Like, you wouldn't, like, again, it's funny looking back now, but at the time I was like,
Yeah.
God, like, you wouldn't like make me lose my job though. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
like, why would you do that? So I was like confused, because I was like, is this you or is this not? And again, kind of what led to that ministry part. I remember during that time, in my closet, I had set up kind of a similar space to this. I had a chair, and it's where I would genuinely go to spend my quality time with God. That is where I was filming and making videos. I was literally filming from what I called my prayer closet. And that is where I started spreading the gospel online. I had started here and there that year prior. Like I said, I was online just sharing my life and what's going on. I'll never forget too, the very first video I had kind of posted about it. I was like, hey, y'all, like, I'm fine for my life, but God, and I have a Bible now, and this is what I'm reading, and like, this is what I'm learning. And so immediately, like the first couple weeks in December, the last two, I was so down bad, and I was so scared. When January of 2024 came, I feel like the Holy Spirit was like, well, you have no choice.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of have to
Yeah.
you just prayed and fasted about this. You said you knew what you wanted to do. You want to help people. You want to do you Bible study. You want to keep talking about me, and you want to keep, pursuing being online. And it's funny because when January came, when I was trying to reevaluate, when I was still kind of stuck between if it was God or not, I went more the logical route and not the faith route. Logically, I was like, that's not okay. Like, I must have done something wrong where I lost my job, and I was looking for jobs so hard, and I was not, of course, it's like the worst time to get laid off. It's like
Yeah.
holidays, everything is slow. So I was trying to do the safest thing, which
Yeah.
was apply immediately. I applied for unemployment. I applied for food stamps. I applied for as much assistance as I could. I immediately started door dashing again, like
Yeah.
anything I could do. But the whole time I felt like this doesn't feel right either. Like, I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel like what I should be doing either. And I was like, I don't want to, I think because I was so focused on getting another job, even though I just prayed about kind of stepping into a purpose in just a few weeks prior. And even though I had just prayed about doing something that felt like I was passionate about, I felt like at that time, that was not the time to go for a dream,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So at that time, I was like, I just lost my job. This isn't the time to go for a dream or to post a silly TikTok or to
Yeah.
start a podcast. Like I just like, this isn't the time for that. This isn't the time to try to go be an entrepreneur. Like this isn't it. This doesn't make sense. And so I was battling with that. And I remember too, at the time I wasn't even on Instagram. I had slowly been taking myself off platforms. I was just really posting on TikTok. And I remember even telling him too that January, I was like, you know what, God, I hear you. Like, I'll put everything on pause. Let me just find another job. I'll handle this a different time because I could feel myself going into survival mode for the very, very first time. And I was like, I don't want to be on the internet. I don't want to be seen right now. This is a very scary moment. I need to like focus and find a new job ASAP.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. January, I didn't post. I didn't do much of anything. I just tried and tried and tried to do. I was door dashing. I was trying to do the logical thing, and I was trying to find another job. No door was opening. Nothing was
Yeah.
happening. And then finally in February, he was like, while you're here and waiting, you might as well do what you enjoy doing. But it didn't make sense to me, especially as a single mom. As a single mom, you feel so foolish for not doing the logical thing. As a single mom, what do I look like
Yeah.
with no money coming in saying, I want to make TikToks for it? Like, it doesn't make sense to you. And it was such a battle. It was such a battle. But when February came around, I had got approved for my unemployment. I had gotten food stamps. And so it brought a little bit more provision. And I
Yeah.
think it opened up a little bit for me to just kind of not be so scared. And I finally just picked myself up in February and I was like, well, the best thing I can do right now for myself is post what's happening and
Yeah.
talk about what's happening. And sure enough, February happened and by the grace of God, he that's when everything he exalted all of my platforms.
Yeah.
Between February and April, or
Wow.
between those 3 months, everything had happened.
Yeah.
Pages blew up, ministry page had started, I had got YouTube monetized,
Yeah.
I was working with brands, like, all these things were happening, um, and my main focus at the time was truly just me sharing what was going on. Like, that's all it was. It was me saying, "Hey, I'm unemployed. I'm scared. This is the journey.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom. This is also what the Lord is teaching me. This is how I'm, this is," and I was always super honest about how I got my income too. I was like, "Hey," like, I remember I would make videos like at the unemployment office or at the food stamp office, just feeling so ashamed. Like, I haven't been here since, I was pregnant. And to be here again at 30 is insane.
Yeah.
It's scary not being able to make means for myself. So just being open and vulnerable and continuing to spread the gospel through it all. I think that's the one thing I continued doing. It was really just me sharing my experience. And I just so happen to be able to give you Bible for it because I'm telling you, hey, this is what I was feeling. This is what I read. And so this is how it's freed me. And so it was that combination that kind of, I believe, kickstarted me really, I guess you can say, working in a ministry. That was the first time, I guess you can really say, that I felt like I was doing something that represented Christ.
Yeah. So, um, first of all, the Lord has a pattern because that's literally part of that situation is what I was praying. I'm like, Lord, I want to be in my purpose. Like, you know, I'm ready. What am I doing? This doesn't feel like something I should, like, this doesn't feel like where my life should be. But I'm also the same as you. Like, I'm grateful. Like, got this job. I'm liking it. But, on the side, Lord, let's do. And then he's like, okay, I hear you. You ready? And then he pushes you into like a faith test. And so it's
Mhm.
like what happened with me is um end up getting let go from the job, got suspended, and started building my podcast and so I just see the Lord do that so many times. So I a lot of times as believers and followers, we don't see that as an answered prayer, what it is. Like
Mhm.
he's calling us into that total dependence on him, which is very scary. It is very scary. Um and you can feel like you're in survival mode. So you one of the first persons I think to first people. I seem to kind of like put it in this context of and put a name on it, survival mode. Um, you talked about it a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about your time in survival mode? Like, how did for you when it started, and just mindset, and just what that season was like?
Yeah, survival mode. What I define as survival mode is you, as a human being, genuinely do not know
Yeah,
how you are going to either keep the roof over your head or your car, or how you are going to put food on the table. And that
yeah,
is, again, an extremely scary place to be. It's not paycheck to paycheck. It's not, it's not having to have a tight budget. It's not, having to sacrifice a few things, having to cut back on expenses. It's you do not know where you're sleeping, where your food's going to come from, things like that. Going back to when I had let go, that was my first experience in true survival mode. I
yeah,
had struggled in the past, sure, financially, but it wasn't until that happened
yeah,
was I like, there's no money coming in.
yeah,
And again, that was barely just January of 2024. So this is only 2 years ago. And I genuinely feel like I have been in that same state since. So it's now going on 2 years, which is crazy. But looking back, I will say, I think what I've learned since knowing him is he just reveals himself to us through different seasons. So
yeah,
he'll reveal himself to us as a father, as a provider, as a best friend, as a partner. He shows us in different ways his mercy, his love at different times, and it's never all at once. And I think that's just the beauty of getting to know him. And I think that's the beauty of having an intimate relationship with him is that you get stronger as the years go by, and he's always going to reveal a new part of him to you. And I think the first time I was thrusted into survival mode, I think that was him showing me the version of him that is the provider.
yeah,
There was no I have not since 2024, I have not had a corporate job. Well,
yeah.
I last year I had this small call center job for like 6 months, but I went all of 2024 without a job.
Wow.
And I remember when I first talked about how I lost my job, there was all these people in the comments like, "Girl, like that's gonna be the best thing that ever happened to you. God is so good. I remember I lost my job 8 years ago and I haven't had to pick up like all these great stories in that time, in that moment. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's so great for you guys. I'm a mom.
yeah,
I'm a single mom. This doesn't love that for you, you know?
yeah,
So I did not believe that for myself. I'm like, no, that there's no way. Like this is my real life and I need to pay bills
yeah,
and all that stuff. And so I think in those first 6 months, he truly miraculously provided for me
yeah,
in the most you hear those stories of like you get a check in the mail and it's your phone bill to you're able to pay a bill or something like that's what was happening to me.
yeah,
The way that he provided for me in those 6 months blew my mind. And
yeah,
even though and what that taught me, it taught me to lean on faith in a way. Now, mind you, yes, I had only known him for like a year at this point, but that was such a true test to if I really trusted him to be the provider in my life every single month, and as hard as it was to be in it, I think there was this surrender to it because he kept showing me every
yeah,
month how fast he was moving. Now, this was 2024 though, so things survival mode has shifted for sure these past couple years. And anyone who's been in survival mode for a long time, I'm sure you'd be able to, resonate. But that first 6 months, again, he was showing up very quick.
yeah,
And so even though I was in survival mode, there was that faith. It was easy to trust him.
yeah,
It was easy to have faith because he was showing up.
yeah,
So while I
yeah,
struggled, I was like, dang, this is great. I was still kind of like, wait,
yeah,
we did it. And I mean, it would be as simple as I would go into and at this time, mind you, I'm still applying for jobs. I'm doing the best that I can in all the areas that I could. So I think maybe that's why I had peace.
yeah,
I wasn't letting it get to me. I showed up the best I could. I was applying for jobs. I was posting all the time. I was pursuing entrepreneurship. So I felt I was doing my part. And I think that's why it was easy to trust him.
yeah,
And he would do miraculous things. I would get a check in the mail where it was like a previous year, I had overpaid a therapist and I got a check for like $600. There was a check insurance.
God.
Hey, something happened. You overpaid. Every month I'd be like, hey, it's a new month, God. Like I was excited to work with him and
Yeah.
I was excited to do life with him, even though there was no consistency, I kept that peace there. So
Yeah.
that was beautiful. That was great. Or it would be like, hey God, I don't know how we're gonna do it this month, but last month you showed me this. I'm excited to testify. And sure enough, something would happen. A video would blow up. And at that time I was getting paid really well on TikTok. So a video would blow up and then boom, there's my rent.
Wow.
2000. On top of that, like I said, it was easy because I was also getting unemployment. So that was like money coming in because I was getting assistance with food stamps. Like it was, I guess, the easiest version of survival mode I was in.
Yeah.
Because all that didn't hit till like late January, February. And then midway, my lease had ended in June. So when my lease was coming to an end and all the assistance was coming to an end, the food stamps and the unemployment, that's when I started getting scared. And so then, like I said, I was scared December and January. I was terrified, but he moved so fast that
Yeah.
he saved me from dwelling there for too long.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was like, no, wait, you really and I would tell everyone when people would be like, how are you doing? Or have you found a job? I'm like, no, but like God's like literally somehow every month. And my expenses were so high at that time.
Yeah.
My rent itself was $2,200.
Mhm.
And again, I was like, it's great. Like somehow the money makes its way to me. Or I remember, little things, people would send me money,
Yeah.
and I would never, if anyone who follows me, I'll never put my cash, I'm never like, hey, if you want to da-da-da. People would send me money. They would email me. I remember when I had moved, I had given all my stuff away for free. I had made a video and I was like, hey, just come pick up stuff. I'll never forget her. She came, gave me $1,000 just because she felt it on her heart to do it. She was like, God needs me to give you this. The way I'm telling you, those 6 months of 2024, those first 6 months,
Yeah.
even though I was in that survival mode, God really showed me what a provider he was. That was like him being peak provider God.
Yeah.
Then, like I said, things have transitioned. Once things started shifting and I let fear take over, that's when things started shifting. That
Mhm.
is when there was a new version of the survival mode where I did not have confidence and he stopped providing.
What let me
And that freaked me out.
let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Well, not stop you, but I want to ask a question. What caused the fear to go to the next level? Or what shifted to allow it in that much? Like what happened in your life?
The people in my life, the people in my life started to they're no longer in my life, but the people in my life at the time, they started to instill a lot of fear in me.
Mm.
They were not believers. And so me not finding a job was scaring them.
Wow.
So they were always in my ear of like, hey, like, I love this for you, but you're not going to sustain this. And it was really messing with my confidence. And they were like, hey, like, okay, but what happens when? Or, and at that time, this is a whole other story, but at the time, I had a I have a biological mom.
Yeah.
Um, she We're no longer in each other's life, but at the time, she was the biggest person in my ear, and she was like, "You just," because my lease was going to end in June, and I really wanted to stay. I was again, I it was things were consistent, and I was finally walking in my purpose, and I felt really good and really confident. And I remember she just kept pushing in my ear. She was all like, "You need to like this isn't going to last. Like the best thing you can do is move out and like move in with us again."
Mm.
Like, and I was like, "No, but I think I can do this." Like and she's like, "No, you can't. Like it's not smart. What happens when this stuff stops? Like then what? You're going to get evicted or you're going to like just so." And it wasn't just that. There were a few I had a girlfriend at the time, again, no longer in my life. She said the same thing. She was like, that's cool. Like, I love that you're blowing up and stuff, but like social media, it's not a thing. Like, that doesn't sustain you. And
Mm, mm, mm.
also at that time, there was a man. in my life. I remember me and the last person I had a serious relationship with, even he was in my ear a little bit and he was like, yeah, like it's not gonna work for you. And that was hard, because I was so stuck. I had so much confidence, but again, I'm very new. I just gave my
Yeah.
life to Christ. So being faith-filled and being filled by the Holy Spirit and led by him is so hard to explain to people. Like I'm going through this whole new supernatural experience that my life is reflecting. Like I
Yeah.
see it in my life. So it's like I felt like nobody could tell me anything. At the same time, though, I was letting everyone tell me
Yeah.
because I was still struggling with my confidence. So they got to me and I went right. And they were also saying too, like my biological mom, she was like, so how are you gonna, when you're, when you lose your food stamps, now what? And your unemployment, so my unemployment only lasts 6 months. So again, there was something about everything stopped at 6 months. That's when my lease ended, all the other provision ended. She was all like, now how are you gonna do it? Because you don't have that coming in. And I would tell, and it was weird. I just felt like I was trying to explain myself, but even the explanations didn't make sense. Like me just saying like, well, I'm gonna just keep posting on TikTok. It didn't register with them because
Yeah.
they're not on social media. They don't do what I do. And at this time I had no friends. I had no covering. I was not in church. I had no mentorship. There was no pastor I could talk to. I didn't have like-minded friends. I had no Christian friends. So there wasn't somebody also in my ear saying,
Yeah.
no, this is God 100%. So I
Do
fell
you remember what
on one
God was
side.
saying at that time? Or was he just
He he was so silent at that time.
was a test?
Now I know why. But he was so silent at that time. And again, I was confused. The same way I was confused when I had first got let go. Because I was like, wait, this isn't you. Because again, as I'm learning him,
Yeah.
this now, and I think this is what I mean by there's been so many different revelations and there's been so many different seasons since being in that survival mode. Because this is now the first time that I don't really hear him. So I'm confused because I'm like, you've been here, like, cool, you lost my job, but now look, you did it for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm trust you again. You've been providing for me. Like I said, I think he made it so easy
Yeah.
to trust him and to love him. And like I said, the way that he was exalting everything, like he made life so easy for me.
Yeah.
And that's what at the time felt like a healthy relationship only when God makes things easy for you. So this is before I really started understanding what discipline was and refinement and that wilderness season. Everyone, this was prior to that. At this time, I still see God as like so in awe. Like it was, I'm always in awe of God, but the relationship was so privileged. I was like, man, like you're awesome. You give, because again, this is my first time in 30 years where I felt like my life was really easy. And so I saw him as like, you make my life easy. He's a period. Like,
And you
I
didn't
don't know
this the
why didn't I
time you
meet
didn't
you
have a
earlier?
job.
Huh?
Yeah, the easiest time in your life is the time you didn't have a job.
Literally. And I'm like, this is great. I'm like, wow, life's easy. And I remember when I was coming up to that decision, I was like, God, are they right? Like I remember even I asked TikTok about it. When God started going silent, I went to TikTok and I was like, hey guys, like this is where I'm at. Y'all think I should move? Do I stay? Like at this point, I'm like asking everybody. I had no idea what to do. And I ended up falling. Like I said, I what everyone said that got to me and it scared me. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, like, well, it doesn't hurt to be safe, And I knew ultimately I wanted to move to Dallas. So that was just something that had been in my heart at the time. I knew I wanted to get to Dallas. Um, and at the time they lived in a little city on top of Fort Worth. So I was still in Fort Worth. And when I moved in with them, they say you have to step out to find out.
Yeah.
I always say that you really cannot lose with God. You are either he is either going to intervene or you are going to be convicted to course correct. That's
Yeah.
it. You really can't lose. Either he is going to intervene because he can, and he will shift and change any circumstance like that. We know this. Or you are going to be convicted to change course. It's one of the two. So you cannot lose. So that was one of those decisions for me. And that's where I really learned that. As soon as I had made so again, he's quiet. I decided to go with the safe route because again, when you don't have, it's easy to go safe when you don't have anyone, like when he's not really proving that faith to you. Like it's easy to stay faithful again when he's making life easy for you and he makes it easy to be faithful.
Yeah.
At the time, because I didn't hear anything, again, I went safe. I got rid of everything I owned because she told me that too. She was like, get rid of everything. Like, come live with me for a couple years and like actually start over and like actually get right financially and like stop doing this back and forth, right?
So
Like
it
actually
sounds
find
good.
stability.
It sounds good to the
It
ears.
did. And I was like, you're right, you know? And I got rid of everything I owned. Like I said, I made a video and I was like, hey, it's for free. DM me, send me an address. I got rid of everything. And this was in August. And I was so sad because a part of me felt so disappointed because I was like,
Yeah.
dang, did I like cop out? Like, did
Right.
I? But you know, it's life. You keep it pushing. I moved in with them in August. The moment I moved in, immediately the spiritual warfare and the regret, it happened so quick.
Yeah.
As soon as I moved in, it's like something hit me and I was like, I should have never done this. And I was devastated. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And that again, going back to what I said, where you really can't lose, I feel like he made such a way out of that decision
Yeah.
because what ended up happening with that, and I had testified about this a few years back, but I ended up getting kicked out in
Wow.
October. So I was only there 3 months. I wasn't even there for a long time. But
From your mom's house?
yeah. So this plan, right? This amazing plan of, hey, come move in with me and start over with me. Again, I had just got out of, I was on this high. I was doing the things I love. But when I moved there, there was so much heaviness in that home and I could feel the tension. And I immediately felt regret that I should not have done that.
Yeah.
And it was such a battle mentally that I had everything I was doing stopped. I wasn't posting online. I wasn't taking coaching calls. I wasn't doing Bible studies. My purpose just completely ended. And that made me feel even worse. And so quickly, the first 6 months, like I said, I was on this high. And that going back to your question of like what took it to the next level, that continued to take the fear to the next level
Yeah.
because I was like, well, now I am helpless. I don't have a job because I was told that I can come and start over, but I'm not starting over because I'm so mentally paralyzed right now. I can't show up online. Like I just stopped. All my money stopped because I
Yeah.
wasn't making, like the flow just stopped. I can't leave this house even if I wanted because my credit sucks. Like one of the biggest reasons I wanted to stay at that apartment was because I could resign
Yeah.
because I didn't need proof of income. I didn't need these things. So I dropped into such a devastating position and the fear and being helpless. And again, that was a second transition to survival mode. That was me saying that even if I wanted to get out of here, I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't get approved for anything. Like I am stuck here. And that was the most helpless, scary feeling. And the tension in the house was so high and I fell into deep depression.
Wow.
And that was horrible. And then when you fast forward to the point that I got kicked out, which is a whole other, that was such a huge testimony and it still blows my mind to this day. This was 2024.
Yeah.
I ended up getting, like, again, it got to the point where I had literally told God, I was like, you would have to, the divine intervention.
Yeah.
I feel like it was me trying to course correct, but I was like, you would have to give me, there's no way I can. There's no amount of faith that can get me out of here. I don't know. Like you would have to do something for me, but me talking to him, but I'm like, I couldn't even tell you what to do right now.
Yeah.
And I still like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't even know how to help
Yeah.
you help me. Like I did not know. I still hadn't got a job. Like
Yeah.
doors were not opening for a job. So I'm like, I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. And I felt like that is also the first time
True.
my relationship with him started shifting for the first time and started being a little bit different. And I was really angry and I was really confused. And I was like, I don't know how we got here. And then being kicked out, like I said, that was it. It was, I'm not even being dramatic. It was very much, I got a text randomly saying, you have until midnight to get everything out. And that process itself was insane. But I remember that happened on a Saturday, and that happened on a
So you
Saturday.
and your son.
Mhm. My son and I.
Ooh-wee.
That happened on a Saturday, and by that Monday, we were already in a new we were approved for a new apartment in Dallas.
Wow.
That weekend, that week is one of the most profound weeks of my life. I'll to this never forget it. And that's why I think in that whole situation, what 2024 taught me was that you really cannot lose. So even though I went through losing my apartment or like deciding to move out when I was in Fort Worth, even though I did, kind of literally lose everything because like I got rid of, all furniture, bed, kitchen stuff. I had any equipment that I had, I gave it all. Like we had nothing.
Yeah.
Like not even being dramatic, we had nothing. And I felt that even though I had just got moved to Dallas, even though there was such a testimony in that, and it was so beautiful, that didn't even, that's still nothing compared to what he put me through then last year in 2025.
Yeah.
So it's like survival mode for me in these past 2 years has been the most insane journey. And I feel like it's been this rapid fire of a mixture of going through real nervous system like issues and really being paralyzed. At the same time, I also feel like I've seen so many different versions of God come in and out. And there's been this so much up and down. And there's been so much pivot and so much change. And there has been so much grief and so much confusion. But there's also been so much grace and so much testimony. And it feels like every 6 months to a year in these past, again, like 2 years that it's been since 2023, since that December, it's just been a new experience in survival mode. So I've experienced the actual fear. I've experienced his grace and mercy in it. I've also experienced like last year, it wasn't fear, it was total defeat. 2025 was total defeat survival mode. It wasn't even like scared. It was just like, F it. I'm here. You want me to be like, this is it. This is my life. It was accepting defeat. And that was a whole other situation.
I want to get into that too, because I want to get into being angry with God, because I believe a lot of believers go into that. So my question is, two-part question. In 2025, you get the text and you move to Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That time period, that survival mode period, like it sounds like to me that okay, you're back in God's will, right? You're back.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the challenge from there? Um,
So January came. Always these Januaries.
yeah,
January came and I was on a high. I had this testimony. He moved me to Dallas. I'm starting new. And I had this amazing job offer.
yes,
Amazing job offer, 6 figures, doing exactly what I was doing before.
wow,
And it made sense. I was
yeah,
like, God, I was like, okay, hold on. I was like, I knew I wasn't sure, but I know you. You always take care of me. Because again, I had this experience of him only knowing him to be,
yeah,
I only knew him as someone who took care of me all the time, like
yeah,
spoiled by him, right? So it made sense.
yeah,
So I was like, okay, God, hold on. I was like, you know what? I was so excited again. January came, I got this job offer. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what you did. You wanted me to get to Dallas. You wanted my expenses to be lower. I'm about to get this new 6-figure job. We will be up. Like it made sense to me. It made sense to me. I pray and fast. I do an Esther fast every quarter. So January was the time to do it. And I remember same thing where I caught myself a couple years prior. I was praying and fasting over this job. And I was so confident that I got it, that I genuinely, I spent those 3 days praising him.
yeah,
Oh, I was like, God, I just want to thank you because I know exactly I was so confident.
yeah,
I was in tears. I had already, and I remember I was getting excited. I was even sitting down with him and we had budgeted the new salary. And I was like, okay, I got you. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. Thank you for doing this. I was so happy. And I was like, wow, like beautiful timing. Look at you,
yeah.
always taking care of me.
Shout out to God.
Shout out God. And I was like, and I remember I did all these things to prepare for it.
Mm.
I even just did extra work. Even when it came to the company, I remember I was like role playing as if I was there. And I was so excited to have security. And once again, I was like, I'm finally out of survival mode. I was like, finally, we did it. It's been going on 2 years now. And I remember I told him, I was like, but wait, God, like, yes, even though I'm getting excited about this job, I promise I didn't forget about our purpose. And I promise I didn't forget about our ministry. It's there. I promise.
Yeah.
But like, let me breathe for a second and then I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone through it. I haven't had any money. I just went through this big traumatic thing. So thank you for taking care of me because we're about to be up 6 figures. And I promise you though, like, let me breathe for a second and let me things settle down. And then we gonna get right back into the ministry. I'll get right back to posting online.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited about that job and how everything was going to change. And I didn't get it.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't get it. And the interviews were so good. And I went to the final round to the point where even in the final round, they were like, we got to get you on LinkedIn. Like, let's connect, let's make sure we have each other on LinkedIn and stuff. And I was like, I'm about to be
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
here.
out of here.
And I did not get it.
Wow.
And I was like, I go, here we go. I go, there's no way.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way. You're not doing this to me. You're not doing this to me. Not a third time. This don't make no sense. And then immediately that high that I had with that testifying, it completely changed. Because now I'm seeing it as like, so you put me here with nothing. I have no income, but now I have bills. Because when I was living with family, there was no bills being paid. Like I didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
And I was all like, this don't make no sense because I didn't ask to be kicked out. So you have me kicked out. I have nothing. I haven't been able to land a job.
Yeah.
And you also, and this is me talking to him, this is also, and me, it's me telling him, and you also know that you haven't put me in a position mentally to serve you and do what you want me to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I finally we're about to get a job and you tease the hell out of me. Like, that's literally me talking to him.
Yeah.
Like, I get emotional even thinking about it. I was so angry. I was like, there's no way. I was like, why would you do this to me? And it was so like, going back to your question about anger, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Oh, I was pissed off. And I was like, I don't know at this point, like, and it's like, I was like telling him, I'm like, I told you. And I was like, I remember even telling him, I'm like, if this is your way of like trying to force me into what you want me to do for you, it's not going to work. I want you to know that. Like, it was me saying, if this is your way of trying to like push me towards my purpose, you ruined it. Because, and it started for the first time, I had this resentment, but I also had this stubbornness. I was like, no, I can't, because there's no way I'm going to be able to show up for you and you still have me in survival mode. Like, I was waiting on him to make me, to give me some sort of comfort before showing up. So I was saying, hey, before you want me to show up for you and be obedient, I need this first, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine God, I just know looking back, he was looking at me like, oh, right. Good thought. But that's what it was. I was like, you want me to be obedient to you? You're not going to give me a job, but you also want me to be, you want me to be a teacher and a healer and run this ministry? There's no way. I'm not doing that now.
Yeah.
So, and then that is where that defeat came from.
Yeah.
So all of 2025, once again, the first 6 months, I let everything go. I let everything go. I let my bills go. My rent was always late. I had picked up a part-time job. That paid nothing.
Is this the call center job or no?
No. This is a gym, front office at the gym.
Okay.
A gym in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I let my car go off a repo. What saved me at that time was when I got income tax. I remember that's what stopped my car from getting picked up. But I said, F it. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't work. I went to my little $10 an hour job and I said, if this is, again, I kept coming back to him saying, you're not going to employ me. There's no way I can serve you being in survival mode. And you could have got me. And in my brain, I was like, you could have got, because again, I because of what I know of him, I'm like, you could have got me out of survival mode and you didn't. So it was I felt like I was throwing a fit all at the beginning of last year. But again, how you get to a point where you're going to lose that battle. You can only be stubborn and resist God for so long.
Yeah.
So it got to the point financially where it got super in the red zone and I was about to get evicted.
Yeah.
And at this time, nobody knew about my financial situation. Nobody knew. And I remember, I was like, F it. I go, okay, God. I was like, cool, evict me then. So I was like, fine, I'll go. Then I'll go. I think I was planning to like go back to San Antonio. It was a mess, man, because like his dad had just, I know we were kind of talking about this earlier, but his dad had just moved up to the DFW area. And
Yeah.
so it was so foolish for me to have to move cities again. We had just
Yeah.
worked so hard, finally getting in the same city. So I knew I couldn't really do that. But I feel like that was the first time that I felt like I was throwing a fit and God was like, you need to get up.
Yeah.
And so that is when I then had to go actually find a job. So I started looking for jobs again
Yeah.
and finally got one. And the one job out of all the years that those after those, since being unemployed, the one job I could snag was a call center job,
Yeah.
which I hated, which pissed me off even more because I was like, you like it pissed
God
me
is
off even
hilarious.
more because and again, you see God in different ways, but ultimately with that call center job, I started in June.
Yeah.
So in that call center job, I hated it and the hours were horrible. It made no sense. And it was in that summer of last year where I felt more his discipline than anything. I
Yeah.
started seeing him as a disciplinary and it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the daddy who
Yeah.
spoils you and gets you whatever you want. It's
Yeah.
the very
Mhm.
stern,
Yeah.
strict. I didn't feel there wasn't a lot of mercy.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of favor. It was it was very much like this is going to hurt and you're going to suffer, but I really need you to get up and I really need you to focus on what I have been telling you to do. Because at
Yeah.
this point, I'm about to move on. Like it was getting so serious and I feel like he gave me that job. It was a job just good enough to get me out of survival mode-ish, but it wasn't enough to make me comfortable. Because had he given me a 6-figure job, I probably would have been like, I don't care, I'm making money, it's fine.
Yeah.
So he gave me that just enough to keep me there because I needed it. Because again, you suffer the consequences. I had said F it, left all my bills go, so I needed a rebuild.
Yeah.
And I hated every minute of it. And that part was so hard. And that discipline was so hard. And he was like, at what point are you going to do what I told you to do?
Mm. What is God like as a disciplinarian?
He's how I am as a disciplinary, which is
Yeah.
funny. I think being a mom, it's weird. You don't like it when it gets done to you.
Yeah.
But the way I discipline my son, I get so emotional when I talk about motherhood. This is why I don't talk about it online often, and because it's such a sensitive topic to me. But when I discipline my son, it's because I love him so much. Like, I do things out of protection and out of love because it hurts me to ever see my son in pain and to ever see my son suffer. I get so emotional when it comes to him. But I get when I discipline him and when I get on him and when I tell him things and when I get frustrated with him, it's because I love him so much and I want him to see this bigger picture.
Yeah.
I want to tell him, hey, like you need to trust me. I'm not hurting you.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing this to make your life harder. I'm trying to help you because I know something you don't or because
Yeah.
I know better. So in the same way I discipline my son, the same way any parent, good, loving parent would discipline their child is the same way I get
Yeah.
disciplined by our Heavenly Father. And the reason why I can appreciate his discipline, even though it sucks, is because I understand as a parent what he's doing. So as a kid, as his daughter, in the moment, there's so many times that I catch myself being like my son. I'll catch myself being like, I'm just acting like Andre right now. And I'm able to kind of come back and be like, okay, this sucks, but I know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
But the discipline, like, sometimes you just don't want to feel it sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't feel like learning your lesson and having to sit in it. Sometimes you don't feel like I said, working that job, like, mind you, it was me who went 6 months neglecting all of my bills. So what happens when you don't pay nothing?
Yeah.
You're going to be put in a crappy circumstance. So as much as I hated it, it didn't feel good. I was just like, ugh, like, I felt like I took 10 steps back just because I was being stubborn, just
Yeah.
because I was being, you know, really childish, or just because I just felt so defeated, which are valid. It's all valid, but no, it doesn't feel good. And it's hard. And you it's easy for you to lose trust. And because the discipline, like, I'm a very stern parent. So there's times where, as much as I want to, in that moment, hug him and love him, I know he needs the sternness. I know he needs it. So naturally, you start to miss out, even though you know it's temporary, even though you know you may be going through a season of discipline, even though you know you're suffering the consequences of your actions, even though you know that's very real and valid. Sometimes you just want to be hugged. Like, sometimes you just want God to just hold you, and not like, you want that love. You don't want that tough love, if that makes sense. And so I think that's also then, like, where surrender comes in,
Yeah.
because a lot of us really fail in that discipline area. We
Yeah.
either resist it, or we get resentful, or we're like, I don't want to, I'm not, we get very prideful too. And we don't like to live in that discomfort. And so what happens is we just run from it. We don't allow ourselves to be disciplined. But when you do allow yourself to be disciplined, and when you do allow him to really just sanctify you and to really work on you in the way that he sees fit, it's never done in vain. And you will always be able to look back and really appreciate it. How adults say now, hey, my mom, dad, I remember they never let, but I can look back and appreciate it now. That's the story of our life when it comes to being disciplined. And no,
Yeah.
it sucks. It will never feel good, but it's something you just have to sit in and learn from. You just do.
Okay, so was there in that 6 months, are you are you walking away from God? Were you just like,
Yeah. I mean, in those 6 months, so this would have been 6 months just last year, from January to June of 2025, while I never stopped being a believer, like, while I never stopped believing in God, I definitely distanced myself on purpose. I was
yeah,
like I said, I was just really stubborn. I was really prideful. And because of so much of what and it was getting difficult, because so much of what I was doing, and so much of my purpose and my social media and my work, was all faith based.
yeah,
So when me and him are not at odds, it's hard for me to show up and
yeah,
testify about him. It's hard for me to. It's like, imagine. It's like, imagine you working with your wife and y'all are having an argument. It's hard to show up and work
yeah,
together. That's what it felt like. It felt like I had spent so much time kind of co-creating with him in my work, that because I wasn't seeing eye to eye with him and I was not happy with him, it was very hard for me to show up
yeah,
and just talk about him and talk highly of him. It was difficult because I didn't feel that. And so, not doing that, such a big part of that ministry and such a big part of what I was doing for him, it also kept me accountable as a believer. Doing the Bible, like, it helped me keep a standard to my life. Showing up online, teaching, healing, again, doing the Bible studies, consistently putting the word out there, it held me to a specific standard. And I wasn't doing any of that anymore.
yeah,
So naturally, my life, like, as I broke my abstinence during that time,
yeah,
during that 6 months. So things started happening that would not have happened if I was connected to him.
yeah,
Things started happening that would not have happened had I was still seeking him first, but I just wasn't. There was a gap, and there was distance between us. I never opened my Bible. I just
yeah,
stopped. I would but again, I was so defeated and I was so disappointed and I was so angry that I was like, I mean, I don't know what to do. So anytime I would try to open my Bible, was not speaking to me. It wasn't changing my heart. I was
yeah,
just like, well, I think I was still using my life circumstance like, hey, this sounds great, but look, what you just did this to me. Like, you just did XYZ. So it's very hard for me to believe that you care right now. And that was difficult. And like I said, the more things got, the more I started letting credit cards are charging off.
yeah,
Again, cars getting off a repo, eviction notice. They have, I was so numb to it. And that's just how prideful I was. I was like, this is what you want from me. So are you happy? Like, it was that kind of mindset. And I didn't feel like, because we weren't in this real active relationship, I really wasn't getting convicted for a lot. Like my
Yeah.
abstinence, when I broke it, there was like really no, I mean, I knew that I was like, well, dang, there goes that. But there wasn't like even that didn't kickstart me going back. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what, God, it was like the convictions really weren't there. I wasn't convicted to be responsible when it comes to finances. I wasn't convicted to be responsible over my life. I wasn't convicted to for sure do what I was called to do. There was no conviction. And that started getting really scary for sure. Because
Yeah.
at that point I felt like at that point, it started again, he pushes you to this point of surrender. It started getting to a point, and I didn't get back to this point until October, mind you. So it wasn't until October of last year did I get to the point of where I wanted to come back. So it took 10 months. It took 10 whole months of me kind of straying, being disconnected. Was I like, you know what? I need you again. And I don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to regain trust. I don't know how to find our intimacy again. And then got kickstarted again in October. I did an Esther fast, went into prayer and fasting. And that's what I reread the book of John. I
Yeah.
remember I remember I remember going into October. And again, this is 10 months in. And I was like, I miss you so much. And I can't. Like, I want to reconcile our relationship so badly. And I just didn't. And I was like, I was so, like I said, there really wasn't a conviction. I think I was just so sad.
Yeah.
I was so sad without him. And I was like, I want to believe you again. I want to trust you again. I want to, I want to feel you again. I just feel so spiritually dead. And I was like, and this is not me, And
Yeah.
I feel like online it was getting like people, I think people were like asking. And I just feel like I wanted to show up for myself so badly, but I knew I could do it by myself. It needed to be with him.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm ready to show up again and I need you. And so I reread the book of John and I needed to be reminded again who he was and his love. And then went into prayer and fasting. And then it's been a journey since then. Another 6-month kind of journey since. So again,
So
lots of up and downs.
October was 6 months ago.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Something about this 6-month pattern.
we're yeah,
Truly.
because I guess I have some things I want to say about that. Where are you? Where are you now? Because I see you online posted. You doing coaching calls. Prayer Closet Pod is popping. Where are you now in your survival mode journey? Like, you just got blessed with a car.
I
So
did.
yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did. Um, I think where I'm at now is since October, again, 6 months ago, all I wanted to do at the time was reconcile where I was disobedient. That was my big priority.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, God, I'm sorry. You're right. I don't want to work a regular job. I don't ever want to do this again. You're right. Like, I do want to serve you. You're right. I do want to help others. You're right. I want bigger. Like, there was just so much of like, hey, I'm wrong. You're right. I need to do what you called me to do. And I need to stop running from it. I need to stop running because I'm scared or because I'm fearful. And imposter syndrome is a whole other thing I dealt with. But also being anybody who is in a Christian space online understands that, especially nowadays, that is so hard.
Yeah.
It is so difficult.
Yeah.
You need a confidence and you need a covering and you need a security like none other. And so I was losing all that. So it was hard. Again, I didn't care about the excuses at the time. I was like, you know what, God, I've learned. We've lived, we've learned. Like, I've gone through so much these past couple of years. I just want to finally do what you call me to do. I just want to show up and be online and help the people and be a voice. Cool. Which is what led me to ultimately end up quitting my job. So then
Yeah.
I felt this conviction for the first time to quit. He was like, all right. He was like, this is it. It's the last chance we got at this.
And this is the call center job.
And this is a call center job. And so I had quit it in December. So December is when I'm like, okay, like we're finally gonna get it right. We're finally
Yeah.
gonna get it right. And we didn't. So, like, go again, like where I'm at now, we're in April. So, wait, pause. I may have totally messed up my eyeliner because I'm crying. I didn't want to cry. Again, there's this pattern where I'm like so on fire and I'm so secure and I'm like, you got me. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, you know what? Like I said, thanks for you're showing me that. Oh, and at this point, again, I've seen so many different versions of God. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I know you as a provider. I know you as a disciplinary. I also know you as, the father who spoils me. I know so much of you now, or at least maybe what I thought at the time, which is just barely in December. But I was like, I got this. I was like, I trust you. I know you. I'm tripping. I know you. I know you better than this. I know you want more for my life,
Yeah.
100%. So I got that fire back. And then coming into this year, January of 2026, that fire lasted maybe 2 weeks.
That's how it happens.
And January came of this year, and I completely fell into a victim mindset.
Yeah.
For sure. I remember going into January, I was like, again, I knew I needed to quit. I still don't regret it. I knew I needed to quit that job. I knew I needed to show up. And me showing up, ultimately what that means is just me posting, right? Me posting online, um, me creating my YouTube videos, me continuing to host, Bible studies and fellowship and making videos that again that do heal and that do teach.
Yeah.
And me, the biggest thing is those coaching calls. It was me
Yeah.
showing up and being like, let me get back to coaching people one-on-one, like all that good stuff. And what's funny is like I knew it. I knew I was like, man, the enemy punked me out all last year. And when I made that big bold decision, I go, this is it's like I expected the enemy to try something for sure. I was
Yeah.
like, anytime I was like, I just made a bold, courageous decision. I just stepped out on faith for the first time in like a year, it felt like. So I was so bold and so courageous. And I was like, and this time around, nothing's punking me out. Nothing's taking me out of nothing's getting in my way. Nothing's gonna make me jeopardize this. And I let a man.
Yeah.
I let a man.
It's the man.
I let a man. And this happens every time. Every single time. Every single time. And I don't know if it's just because lust is such a downfall for me, but every single time that I'm about to, I feel like get elevated,
Yeah.
something happens with a man every single time. So basically, coming into this year, I allowed a man to take complete hostage over my mind and my heart,
Mm.
which sucked a lot. And I just did not see that coming.
Yeah.
How I thought and I'm not one to give the enemy a lot of credit at all. If anyone knows that, I always say I am not the type to be like, oh, it's the devil. Oh, it's not it. I always like to focus on what love can do and God's power and the power we have, right? And we know, and the Bible tells us, we know that God does not tempt us. He tests us. The devil tempts us, but it's
Yeah.
only when we fall into that temptation do we become a slave to whatever the situation is. And so I knew God was testing my faith and he was really wanting to see how bad I wanted it and how bad I really did want to take this seriously and change my life. And what happened was the man who ended up kind of taking hostage of my mind and my heart, he's a very small portion of it, but that ended up opening
Yeah.
an entire door to these deeper issues that I had
Yeah.
when it came to father wounds. And that threw me. So I say that to say, in this, again, this survival mode, it happens in different pieces and things change. But January, February, March, those 3 months were me now having to deal with really deep rooted issues
Mm.
that for me, I feel like came out of nowhere that I didn't really feel like addressing or didn't feel like it was necessary to address. I remember even talking to God, like I was like, God, like I'm getting excited about my career. Why are we worried about my daddy issues right now? This
Yeah.
doesn't, this is so not important. And again, it's one of those things where God's doing something and I'm just so confused. I'm like, hold up, I finally surrendered to you. I quit my job. I want to be here. Like I want to focus on this, but why is my mind, why is it getting stuck on past things? That then led to abandonment issues, which then led to grief. It opened up so many doors to other things that were in my heart. And then I was starting to get irritated because I was like, God, why? Why do we have to deal with this now? Like, why do I have to heal through this right now? Why? Like, out of all the times, can we save this for like a different season? Like, I don't really feel like addressing those things. I don't really care about those things, but those things, what it was doing to me, again, from January until March, these past 3 months, my heart has been hardening, but this time it wasn't against God because I had an issue with him, it was against people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Oh my God," like, he needs both. Like, we need to all work together in harmony. It's not like, again, our 2 greatest commandments, you have to love him with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and love others.
Yeah.
So what happened was, in my own personal journey and what has been the past couple years, I feel like that got rectified. And then he showed me where everything in our horizontal relationships were bad. Finally got this vertical one back right. And then I'm thinking, again, we're good. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like, I love you again. I'm a surrender to you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to serve you. And he said, pause. Now we have to work on your heart towards others. And I was just like, what? Like, why? And so that's what the past 3 months have been. The past 3
Yeah.
months have been him revealing to me where I have so much bitterness and unforgiveness and pride and ego and grief towards people.
Yeah.
It was him not, and it started with that man, yes, but it wasn't just him that had my heart and mind hostage. It was every person that ever abandoned me in my life.
Yeah.
It was this whole, thing of, and again, he's telling me, I'm just expecting to go back because things change, right? Since doing what he told me to do, there was a few things that happened in my life abandonment wise, including getting kicked out that I hadn't addressed yet.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much that was still sticking to me.
Yeah.
So I talked about this earlier with you. I feel like what I've also noticed in how destiny works and what he wants you to do, there is a lot of death and resurrection.
Yeah.
So in me just thinking, okay, I'm ready to be used by you, I'm not being used the same as I was just a year prior because now so many things have happened that now have affected me and now have hardened my heart. So he can't use me with a hardened heart. And I think him revealing that to me, I was like, oh man, like I have to soften up. I was like, well, can't we separate the two? Like, I'll do this healing. Like, I understand I have some things to work through with some people, but I'll be good to people online. Like, I can still coach people and like be there for people. And he was like, you absolutely cannot. You
Yeah.
absolutely cannot, because you're gonna have because as we know, everything we say, everything we do, it flows. It flows from our heart. And he's like, I'm not gonna be able to use you with a hardened heart, point blank, period. So you need to soften up. And that is what the last 3 months have been. So we ask ultimately where I'm at now,
Yeah.
going into April. The past 3 months I was so angry and so bitter, like I said, not at him. This time it was to people, and it was affecting my relationships with people.
Yeah.
It was making me not fun to be around. It was messing with my character. I felt like I was being a false witness to myself because I was no longer being a representative of Christ in the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
I was falling into gossip. I was falling
Yeah.
back into lust. There was so many things that were happening where I was just like, except now, again, I'm seeing it in like real relationships.
Yeah.
And I was again kind of I was like falling into this victim mentality of like, see, God, like, how you want me to do XYZ, but you keep making me having you want me to like I've been looking for him to make it easy again. That's so
Yeah.
I've been looking. I think I cling on to how easy he made my life at the very, very beginning. And I think I've been asking him, like, make my life easy again, make my life easy again. Like, why do I gotta go through this? Like, can't you just make a post go viral? Like, get my money back up. Like, I've been wanting it to be so simple. And in this process of survival mode, in this relationship with him, this is where I have seen a lot of his mercy. The biggest thing to that was the car. Giving me that car. It's me. I was falling into this victim mindset. I'm like, woe is me. Like, I maybe I don't have the heart for this. I was like, I do love people and I want to see people win, but at the same time, I kind of am angry with people. I
Mhm.
kind of don't trust people. And then it became such an internal conflict for me. And I don't like not, if anybody who watches my content knows I'm very, very authentic. Like I can't, it's very hard. I really cannot fake it online. I can't.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing what I'm going through in real time with real emotion. So if I'm not, and I can't like pre-plan content. I can't sit there and be like, hey, I feel like talking about this. It happens in this real time. And it's hard. I don't like not practicing what I'm preaching. And I think that's what he ultimately has been wanting me to work on these past couple months. I can't sit here and go online and be like, hey, I support you and I love you. And, I want to see you grow. And especially as a coach, I can't sit here and say, I want to help you do XYZ. And I am not doing that. I can't sit here and help you through forgiveness. And I could care less to forgive somebody right now. It doesn't make sense. And that is what the past 3 months have been. And it got to a point where once again, this pattern where I was like, you know what? Okay, let me grow through this. Let me grieve through this. Let me start this healing process within myself because I'm realizing how bad you need it for me. So I've seen him now, the healer
Yeah.
and Grace. So him as the healer, I have now experienced that. So it wasn't self-help. It wasn't just the Bible. It wasn't through fellowship, not a church or anything like that. It's like he genuinely had to heal me and say, hey, these are the parts of your heart that we have got to see. And you know what? In meeting him, I thought my only issue was lust.
Yeah.
I thought that was it. You really don't realize how raggedy you are. You really don't. I thought my only issue was lust. So because we had kind of already learned, Pat, like I felt like I wasn't battling it the same. I was like, okay, we have nothing else to work on.
Yeah.
Not true. So this time around, he was like, hey, I kind of want to introduce you to what life with me actually does really look like. Because these past, again, couple years, I think it's been a lot of different versions, like different trial runs of what different area and seasons look like. It's been very quick. I
Yeah.
think for the first time this year, he has actually sat me down and been like, hey, life with me actually does look like these different versions that I've shown you. It's gonna go up, it's gonna go down, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be tempting. There's also gonna be so much testimony. There are gonna be times in our relationships where you don't like me. There's gonna be times in a relationship where you cannot get enough of me. There are gonna be scary moments, and there are gonna be mistakes and ways that you fall, but there's also gonna be ways that my grace picks you back up. Like it's been
Yeah.
this actual like, hey, relax. We are doing life together long term.
Yeah.
There's no ending to this. You might as well just sit here and just surrender to me because and again, I think being in survival mode, especially dealing with abandonment issues, or if you're dealing with performance anxiety with God, you're always waiting for something to change, or you're always just waiting on one specific version of him. Like I said, this entire time, I've just been waiting on the God that makes it easy for me. And understanding again that he is a healer and a disciplinary and a father and a provider, it really kind of makes you understand that, yeah, this is what life with him is going to look like. And now that was kind of a long-winded answer to where I'm at now, but it really has ultimately, I went on again another fast going
Yeah.
into April. It got to a point where I was like, hey, I really need your love to come into my heart again. I need to align my heart with you. Once I align my heart with you, then I feel like we can both finally be at a point where we can kind of resurrect this purpose that you have in calling on my life, and then we can go from there. And that's where we're at. I would say we're at a point of just resurrection, hearts being back aligned, and both of us finally, well, he's never changing, but me finally being like, okay, I am genuinely ready to get used by you.
Yeah.
And I am genuinely willing to work on myself so that I can best serve others in the best way that I can. And that's led to more confident and also with the victim mentality, I had been putting myself in so many situations that was making me feel so not confident. And in this surrender process and in me just saying, hey, like, I want to be in places that I know you're at and make me feel good again. I have been purposely doing that, saying yes to being here, saying
Yeah.
yes to edifying conversations, saying yes to community again, getting myself in places that make me feel good, doing, but like just putting that faith out there and doing the things that I know is truly helpful again. I would say is where I'm at. And in this, I been back posting online, which has
Yeah.
felt amazing. And I went back and I hate promoting myself. That's one thing everyone knows about me. I am not a salesy person by heart. I hate promoting things. But I do love what I do and I love what I've created. And so I know recently we celebrated selling devotionals. I made a
Yeah.
digital devotional that was really exciting and I hadn't celebrated that. And yes, celebrating, getting a new car, his mercy, and that was insane. And that felt really, really good. That was his way of, I think, kind of nudging me and saying, hey, like, I'm ready whenever you are. You're almost there. And I've just stayed committed. I've tried my best to stay committed. And that was my scripture of the year, Proverbs 16:3, and commitment is my word. I just wanted to commit my life back to him and like
Yeah.
really do what he needs me to do. And if that meant one more little mini season of this deeper healing that now had more to do with me and my heart, then great. And I think ultimately he's been using all that. He's been using these past couple years to finally put me in position. And I think the
Yeah.
position is where I'm leaning into now for the first time since being let go in December of 2023. So
Yeah.
it's been years of preparation and it's been years of experiencing him in so many different ways. Now I feel like we're just on the same page. And
Yeah.
now I feel excited to do what he wants me to do. Perfect love casts out fear. We know this. And so that is where I'm at. I have allowed his perfect love to cover me again. And I have just been more open and just excited to say, yeah, I'm just excited to see what he does with my life again. So I've been making little things, like I said,
Yeah.
rather it's showing up. I did relaunch my coaching calls because it's been, yeah, almost 2 years, or I think a year and a half, or it's been since June of 2024
How did you know you was ready to start again? Start the coaching calls again?
because he worked on my pride and ego.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. The the reason why the coaching calls I think are the hardest for me is because I have to be in a very specific headspace to be able
Yeah.
to sit with somebody and to be able to help them. Again, I'm already a single mom. I'm a single mom. I was in survival mode. I'm also in a very heavy space online and I
Yeah.
have no support system, no family, and just in a new city, I have very little support. That's not the best recipe for a flourishing environment. So to think about pouring into somebody else is the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel like that's one of the biggest first steps that he's been wanting me to do. He's like, this is how I want to use you. And I need you to help develop people. I just need you to.
Yeah.
But I just haven't been in the headspace. And so I think what made me finally get excited to do that was what he's been personally doing with me these past couple months, the deep healing that he's been doing in my heart. What it did was it reignited that ambition to want to help others again because I had separated from that. Remember going into 2025, that bitterness and stubbornness was there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to help people and I was doing it out of pride. I
Yeah.
was all like, well, I don't want to help people because if I help people, that means I'm serving you and I'm not trying to serve you right now. Does
Yep.
that make sense? Like it was something I was doing for the Lord and I didn't want to work with him. Like I said, I didn't want to serve people. And that was coming from that's coming from such a place of pride. I should want to have a heart posture that helps and serves others. Rather, I feel like me and God, we beefing or not. And
Yeah.
that is what finally unlocked it this time. I stopped fighting against that pride and bitterness and ego. And I'm like, no, I need to be here because it's bigger than me. I need to be here because I need to be obedient to you just out of love, just point blank, period. There's no, like, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
me and you are personally going through. Like, I need to be here because that is that that is my calling on the line. And so it just kind of kickstarted me being excited and just to have also just like fresh perspective on healing through certain things. So now I am in position to where I can help somebody,
Amen.
work
Amen.
through unforgiveness and all those things. So it's
So,
really good.
how in this 6 months, this 6 months trial, I know at the 3 month mark, he started to really do some other things in your heart. How has he been providing though? Like, how have you been leaning into that and just trusting that?
His, I don't know yet.
Yeah,
And that's the exciting part. With the going back to the car situation, um, when he gave me that car, when he gave me that free car, I think that was his mercy. And that was him saying, hey, I'm ready to start providing for you again. We're in we see different sides to him.
yeah,
And I believe that was his way of saying, hey, I'm ready to be your provider now. Like I'm ready
yeah,
to get back to where you trust me to give you your provision. It started with him giving me that car. I got that car last month. The past couple weeks, again, kind of ending last month, it was this combination of trying to regain that trust, trying to stay faithful, trying to heal, da da da. We're April 4th, right?
yeah,
In that, specifically in that fast, kind of going into this month, I have no idea how he's going to provide.
yeah,
And I feel like I'm right back to where I started a couple years ago when I had lost my job.
yeah,
What's different is like now I'm very excited again.
yeah,
This time, for the first time in what feels like a couple years, I do feel like I am now showing up in all the different ways that I can. And I'm excited to see what he uses to provide for me. So right now, I have no idea. I know he's a provider. I thank him now for whatever he's going to do for me at the end of this month. But I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you how. I don't know if it's going to be through the client calls. I don't know if it's going to be through YouTube, TikTok. I don't know if it's going to be through an Etsy shop. I don't know if it's going to be,
through a podcast.
through a podcast. I don't know if it's going to be through, events, because that's one thing I used to do was host events. So I have no idea, but we're so excited and I don't feel
What's on your
like I'm
heart?
in survival. Huh?
What's on your heart?
As far as like how he'll do it or
What's on your heart as far as what you want to do? What's in your heart for what you want to do?
what's on my heart to do is to heal and teach using any possible avenue I can. That is on my heart heavy.
Yeah,
To be a healer, to operate. I'll rephrase that. It's so heavy on my heart to operate as a healer and a teacher again. I had stepped away from that for a while, and
yeah,
that is so heavy on my heart. I feel so privileged. In that, I think that's what's also changed too. I now feel privileged to be used by God. I'd lost that a little bit with what we were going through, but now I feel privileged. I want to be used. I want to teach. I want to heal. I don't want people to lose their battle to mental health, especially moms. Like it's just, I'm so, I have this compassion for people again. And I'm so excited. Like it makes me emotional because like I said, especially these past couple months, I was dealing with a lot of bitterness. Like my heart just had hardened a lot. And it was first towards him and then to other people. And my heart's softening.
yeah,
So now that my heart is softening again and my compassion for people is coming back, and I'm so want to be here for the Lord, no matter how I feel, no matter what I'm going through. It just is what it is. It doesn't even, I, doesn't matter what I'm going through in real life. It doesn't matter maybe what hardships I'm going through. It's one of those things where it's like, I have that confidence and faith in our relationship that we'll work through that. It'll be fine. but I don't want anything just to stop me from showing up anymore. Because it doesn't,
Yeah.
the life, there's never going to be, especially in doing what I do. Like they say, every therapist is a therapist. If I wait till my life is always in order and that's the only time I serve people, it's not
Yeah.
going to work. That's not how it works.
Yeah. I think, no, you're in a great spot. Just listen to your story. If we are back in that first 6 months where God is
Mm-hmm.
providing, right? And you were excited, um, I think you're in a great place. Now, I do think that what is gonna happen next is you're gonna get the tests. The voices will come to tell you whether it be or a man will come. So just understand that there is a test gonna be coming, but I think you're in a great place. I think your surrender, your yes, obviously we see it. Like we see it online. We see the coaching calls, we see the prayer closet pod, we see so I'm excited to be able to see and watch the journey, and I think it's really about to take off just from hearing your testimony. It's pretty dope, and I think a lot of people relate to it. Like I said, I'm in a similar situation right now, and which is one of the reasons I'm up here doing pod because like podding, just because this is what I want to do. But I'm waiting for the Lord to provide with that as
Right.
well, right? So, because I did step away from my job, so I'm doing a lot of stuff I love. And you said something that resonated with me so much. It's like, man, God is so good. The only problems I really have is like a financial problem. Everything else in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
a lot of times we get so scared and worried that we don't get to sit in there like, dang, my life is good. Like
Yeah.
I have this here, but if I can trust Him with this, like this is the life I want. Because when I go back to the job, man, I'm stressed out. I
Yes.
gotta deal with the coworkers that get on my nerves, the boss that might get on my nerves. Now I'm not able to get in my purpose, so I'm feeling stuck. So so much stuff comes with that. But when you're able to trust in the Lord and just sit with Him, even though you might not have every single thing figured out, which is I think as humans and believers, what we want to have everything figured out. It's like I have to have every until we can, but throughout the whole Bible and the word, like the Lord is just asking us to trust Him. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I did have more, but the Lord, I feel like the Lord just He wanted me to stay with that. So, where can we find you, Vanity? Like, where can we follow you? Where can we get the coaching calls? Where can all of it?
So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the same name. It's underscore Miss Vanity, MSVANITY. And then in each platform, under each bio,
Yeah,
there is a link. And under that link is where you find all the resources I
yeah,
have, whether it's Bible study, the Etsy shop for the devotional, coaching calls, if you want to be a new client, Bible study resources, all of
yeah,
those things. So underscore Miss Vanity is where you can find me everywhere. And then the Prayer Closet Pod is an
yeah,
Instagram page, the
yeah,
Instagram and TikTok page.
yeah. Well, um, man, I just thank you for your time, and thank you for being. One of the things I want to thank you for too is just being open and vulnerable and real. Like I feel like the Lord needs that type of ministry in the earth as well. So I just want to shout you out for that too. And yeah, uh, that's it. I thank you for the conversation, and I appreciate you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you for stopping
I'm
by,
so
man, to
happy to
vent.
be here. Thank you
Yeah,
for allowing me to have that conversation.
yeah,
It was nice to speak. So
I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you.
Well, that is it for Male to Man today, guys. Miss Vanity in the building. We thank y'all. It's been a dope episode. All right, we'll see you. All right,
Bye.
that was great.